let my recently divorced sister move in. 2 months later, I found her in my kitchen, wearing my robe, flirting with my husband. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just made one phone call. And by the time I was done, they had no electricity, no money, and soon, no place to live. When my sister's marriage fell apart, she called me crying at 2 a.m., sitting in her car outside a gas station with nowhere else to go. Her voice was shaking, and she said she couldn't go back to mom and dad's. They told her, "You made your bed, now lie in it." So I told her to come to me. My husband, Eric, and I had just finished renovating the guest room in our place. We'd been using it for storage, but it was clean, cozy, and had its own bathroom, perfect for someone who needed time to regroup. For the first couple of weeks, it was actually nice. Like old times, we'd stay up late watching cheesy rom-coms, ordering Thai food, and making sarcastic commentary about her ex and his midlife crisis beard. I felt like I was helping her get her life back, and she kept saying how grateful she was. But around week 4, something shifted. Started small, subtle, a little too subtle at first. She began getting dressed up to hang around the house. I mean, I work from home. Half the time I'm in joggers and a hoodie, but she'd waltz into the kitchen at 9 a.m. in full lashes, a push-up bra, and perfume. I thought maybe it was just her way of coping, trying to feel confident again after being dumped. Then she started laughing a little too hard at Eric's jokes, playfully hitting his arm, telling him how lucky I was to have someone so handy and hot. It made me uncomfortable, but again, I brushed it off. I didn't want to seem insecure. She was my sister, for God's sake. But then came the robe. One Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen, half awake, craving coffee. And there she was, standing in front of the stove, wearing my robe, cooking his favorite breakfast, and laughing at something he'd just said. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't innocent. This wasn't some poor, heartbroken sister finding comfort in family. This was deliberate. And I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. I stood there in the hallway for a few seconds, just watching, not saying a word. Eric saw me first. He froze, spatula midair, and gave me that sheepish, "You caught me doing something but I don't know what" look. My sister? She turned her head like I was the guest in her house. "Oh hey," she chirped. "I didn't think you were up yet. I made breakfast." I looked at the plate on the counter. Scrambled eggs with sharp cheddar, chives, hot sauce, toast buttered before going into the pan, just how Eric likes it. She didn't even like eggs when we were kids. I remember because she'd gag every time mom made them. "You're wearing my robe," I said. She blinked, then looked down like she'd just noticed. "Oh my God, I thought this was mine." "Sorry," she said, pulling it tighter around herself like she owned the place. "You know how all these fluffy robes look the same. Mine has my initials embroidered on the sleeve." Eric offered me a plate like nothing was weird. "Want me to make you one too?" he asked, way too casually. His voice sounded off. Too high, too eager, like he was trying to defuse a bomb. I just said no and walked out. The rest of the weekend, I pretended nothing happened. I needed time to observe, cause once you notice the cracks, you start seeing the whole foundation crumbling, like how her phone would buzz at night and she'd giggle at the screen, then flip it over if I walked in, or how Eric suddenly had a password on his phone. He never used to, or how I caught them whispering in the garage, and when I asked what it was about, they both said at the same time, nothing. There were other things too, little things. My makeup sponge missing and mysteriously reappearing in the guest bathroom. A shirt of mine that showed up on her Instagram, tied into a crop top. The way she started calling Eric Ricky like it was some flirty inside joke. Nobody had called him that since high school. But the worst part? I started to doubt myself. Because if you go to your husband and accuse him of something and he laughs it off with, "Babe, she's your sister," you feel crazy for even thinking it. And if you say something to your sister and she gets all weepy and says, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, I'll start looking for a place soon," you feel guilty for even bringing it up. But then one night, I caught a glimpse of her phone screen over her shoulder. She was texting someone under the contact name R. And the message? "He smiled at me today. Think I'm finally getting through to him." I froze. She locked the phone like nothing happened, and I realized the person she was texting wasn't just some rebound crush. It was him, my husband. And now I had a choice to make. Not just about whether to confront them, but how. Because I wasn't just going to yell and cry and make a scene. No, I was going to make it hurt. I already knew step 1. Now I was planning step 2. Got worse after that morning. Once I saw them in the kitchen, her in my robe, laughing like they were the stars of some flirty rom-com. I stopped sleeping properly. I started setting my alarm earlier just to avoid running into her. I'd tiptoe around my own house like a guest. Sometimes I'd go to the gym even if I didn't want to, just so I could have a place where I didn't have to wonder if she was touching something that used to be mine. That night, I brought it up to Jake. He barely looked up from his phone. "She's going through a hard time," he muttered. "Don't make this about your insecurity." Insecurity. That word hit me like a slap. He used to say I was confident, grounded, the most sure of yourself woman I've ever met. But now, with my sister under our roof, I was suddenly just paranoid. And the worst part? She kept acting like we were best friends again, making us all coffee in the mornings, baking cookies, even folding our laundry as a thank you. I swear, I opened my drawer one morning and found my own underwear folded in a way I don't even fold it. I felt like I was losing my grip on my own life. Then came the turning point. One night, I got home late. I'd been helping out at a local fundraiser. My phone had died hours ago. When I walked into the house, everything was quiet, lights off. I assumed everyone had gone to bed, but as I passed the living room, I heard it. A laugh, soft, flirty, hers. I peeked around the corner and saw them, my sister and Jake, on the couch, watching a movie together under a blanket, one I didn't recognize. Her hand was resting on his thigh. I stood there for a full 10 seconds, long enough for her to spot me. She didn't even look surprised, just pulled the blanket up higher and gave me this fake sleepy smile. Oh hey, you're home. No apology, no explanation, just like I was the one intruding. I didn't say anything, not then, but something snapped in me that night. I stopped avoiding, I started planning, and I made a call. The next morning, I was all smiles. I made pancakes, asked if they wanted coffee, told my sister how pretty her hair looked. Jake raised an eyebrow, but she didn't question it. She just basked in it like she thought she'd finally won. Let her, because while they were eating the breakfast I cooked, I was finalizing the details of my new living situation. What they didn't know was that 3 days earlier, I'd met with a realtor, quietly toured an apartment, signed the lease, transferred funds, booked movers. My name was on the title of this house, but I didn't care anymore. They could have it, for now. I also called a locksmith and gave him very specific instructions. That part was for later. I spent the next few days tying up loose ends, redirecting my mail, packing essentials, getting all my financial info and important documents out of the house. Jake didn't notice. He was too busy playing house with my sister. Then came the day I left. I waited until they were both gone. She was running errands, and Jake was at work. I had the movers in and out in 2 hours. Everything I wanted, I took. What I left behind, nothing I couldn't replace. Well, except one thing, a note, folded neatly on the kitchen counter. It read, "You can keep each other, but you'll both have to pay the mortgage now. Good luck." Cause guess what? Jake didn't realize I'd quietly removed myself from the joint account a week earlier. I stopped auto-paying the bills I'd been handling for years. Credit cards, the utilities, the internet, all under my name, all canceled. And the mortgage? Half of it had always come from my income. Without it, they were in for a shock. The day they both found out was glorious. My phone blew up, first a bunch of missed calls from Jake, then a long, rambling voicemail from my sister trying to sound calm while clearly panicking. Something about just wanting to talk, and you didn't have to do this. Oh, but I did, and I wasn't done yet. By the time they realized I'd removed my half of the money and changed the passwords to every account I'd ever managed, it was too late. Power was already scheduled to be shut off. Internet, canceled. Streaming services, gone. Even the thermostat was offline because that smart home system was mine and I'd taken the login with me. That evening, I finally picked up when Jake called. I let him talk first. He was flustered, trying to act angry, but his voice cracked halfway through. "I don't know what you think you're doing," he said. "This is still your house too." I kept my tone calm. "No, Jake, it was our house. And then you started playing house with someone else. Someone who just so happens to share my DNA." Silence. He stammered something about how it was just flirting, that it didn't mean anything, that I was blowing everything out of proportion. I didn't respond to that. I just said, "Good luck refinancing the mortgage with your credit," and hung up. He tried calling again. I blocked him. That night, my sister messaged me from a burner account because I'd already blocked her too. She begged me to talk, said she was so sorry and didn't mean for any of this to happen. She ended her message with, "You're my sister. I thought we could work through anything." I didn't reply, but the next day I posted a picture of my new apartment. Bright, clean, filled with plants. Caption read, "Sometimes peace looks like 800 square feet and nobody breathing down your neck." Got a lot of likes, including from a few of my sister's old friends. People who knew exactly what she'd done and weren't impressed. But I still wasn't finished, because I had one more move left, and this one was going to hurt. I waited until the end of the month, just long enough for them to feel a little too comfortable. Power was back on, the Wi-Fi restored. They'd figured out some workarounds, probably thought I was done, that I'd thrown my tantrum and moved on. They underestimated me. The final strike came on a Tuesday. I'd scheduled it weeks ago, quietly, through a lawyer I'd hired the day I walked out. See, Jake and I weren't just married, we were co-owners of the house. But I was the one who'd paid the down payment, the one who maintained the property. My name was first on the deed, and I had receipts for every major renovation, every mortgage payment, every single dollar I'd put in. The house was as much mine as it was his, except now I didn't want it. I wanted it sold. And more importantly, I wanted them out. The notice was delivered by courier, an official letter notifying them that I was forcing the sale of the house. Jake could either buy me out, which we both knew he couldn't afford, or agree to list the property. They had 30 days to respond, 60 to vacate once the process started. The kicker? They couldn't qualify for financing without me. His credit was shot. My sister didn't have a job, and her alimony from her ex-husband had just been suspended because she'd moved in with another man, a detail I'd anonymously reported. backed up with a nice little folder of photographic evidence. I didn't even have to press charges for anything. Karma had her own calendar. Jake tried to fight it, claimed it was unfair and vindictive, said I was ruining his life. I sent him a simple reply through the attorney. You ruined your own life. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. The sale went through 3 months later. I took my half, reinvested it in a cozy condo in a city where no one knew my name. I redecorated the kitchen just how I liked it. My robe hanging peacefully in the closet, untouched. And them? They bounced between couches for a while. Tried launching a GoFundMe to get back on their feet. It didn't get much traction. Turns out people aren't too sympathetic when they find out why you're broke and homeless. Sometimes people ask if I regret cutting off my sister completely. I don't. There's a difference between helping someone through a hard time and being the doormat they wipe their mess on. She chose betrayal. I chose peace. And let me tell you, peace feels a whole lot better than shared DNA.